recording there. All right, folks, it is Thursday night and it is time for our unusual Thursday night trading psychology session. This week, the whole month of July, the plan is to have an interview session. Actually, there's what, 5 coaches, there's more than 5 Thursdays, so it'll extend part into August. We're going to be interviewing the different mentors and coaches, and ideally, I would love to interview some of you as well. If anyone wants to step forward, I promise this will be a painless process here. But anyhow, as is usually the case, let me find the right, hang on one second, let me find the right slide here. There's a disclaimer, read at your leisure, and don't forget we've got classes every single day of the week, including, hang on, tomorrow is Friday. I wasn't there last Friday, I apologize, I was on the road, anniversary trip to Baton Rouge, a wonderful place. But I will be having my swing trading session tomorrow afternoon. But we got something every day of the week for everyone to participate in. All right, so this thing is called A Trader's Journey, and the whole point of this is to not only talk to the individual coaches, but to find out how they are dealing with trading psychology specifically. I mentioned last week, this is sort of my passion, that I did the whole joke about the guy that falls in the hole and his friend jumps in and says another way out. That's kind of how I feel. And Brian was one of the first people that I ever met in, I don't know if he knows. Brian, do you know where we first encountered one another? Do you even remember?
I don't. It was that impactful.
Yes, I can tell. So I was watching the Trader Merlin show. It used to be called Power Trading Radio. You're familiar with Power Trading Radio? Yes.
Yes.
And Merlin did a session one time about trading community and find some people. I'm like, how do you do that? I didn't know anybody at all. And so what I did was I just went on, at the time it was on Facebook Live.
Yeah.
I believe it has moved over. It's on YouTube now. But so I said, I just started spamming everybody who made a comment on Merlin's broadcast. I would send them messages, like 50 people, just bam, 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 just, will you please talk to me, kind of a thing. Now, really needy, really over the top. I did. And you and our young friend from Dubai were the only ones to respond. That was the fall or early winter of 2017. And it was after that that I started attending the Monday night sessions. And I actually learned about, I never knew nothing about Forex at the time. I had only been a stock trader. So I actually learned everything that my first, well, really my only education from, and we'll get to the education in a minute, from OTA was pre-supply and demand. I got those DVDs from Mike McMahon on how to trade and stochastics and all those things. So it was called Professional Trader or something like that.
Yeah.
So
they kind of still use that in the OTA program.
I loved it. I mean, he was
part of the basic program. He was the foundational coach.
So I've never met any of those guys in person. So everything that I learned about Forex, I learned from watching your Monday night sessions. I believe it's always been Monday night. Has it ever not been Monday night?
Pretty much, because mainly because that's the best time to really start setting things up for a swing.
Well, that's true. Yeah. That's true. All right, so we have a standard series of who, what, where, when, why questions for both background, and I don't know if you've ever done a background video on yourself with your sessions, but we're going to tonight.
I don't think I've done anything like this.
With that said, let's dive into it. When did you get into trading overall, and maybe specifically Forex trading specifically?
Wow. Out of college, I started working at a bank in Fort Worth, Texas. Got me into the mortgage, started doing the money thing. That's when my interest was kind of peaked. They found out back then that I could hack a computer pretty well. So they moved me from dealing with. And
for the NSA who is listening, I do not know this man.
Well, this was many years ago. What they do now is so far past me. But at that time, we were working on the mortgage lending side of things at the bank, and I was asked if I would develop the mortgage lending program for the company. I thought, okay, I got a raise. Sure, I'll do it. It took me about a year and a half to really fully complete that program. Did some training, went over North Carolina. I think I was in Seattle for training to learn how to do it. Finally built it, but by the time we finished it, I had realized then that I hated it. I hated being a programmer, but I love dealing with the money of it and the spreadsheets of it and building those type of things. So in the midst of that, that was probably 1995, 4, somewhere in there. I'd made a decision to make a big change. We hadn't had children yet. I was married and decided to go into financial planning, Series 7 licensed, Series 66, Series 6. There was a couple other ones, and started the program into the actual certified financial planning program. So I was highly affiliated with investing, never saw charts. We didn't talk about charts, and had the opportunity to intern a little bit in New York and see how the order flow was before there was computers. So I really didn't get a chance to look at Forex. I saw futures, and even then in New York, you didn't see charts. Nobody used charts. And even back then, nobody was trading from home. Not everybody had a personal PC at their home, and we didn't have cell phones to trade on. So it was a totally different world back then. And I did that for a couple of years, had fantastic. I did all the way up to 2000. So I had a fantastic run for a while. My average portfolio that we managed was anywhere from 60 to 80% annualized return. When I decided to hang that up and go into touring in music in late 1999, that's when things kind of went south for a lot of the market, 98, 99. But my last year of portfolio management was really good then. So I thought I knew everything about the market. And I'm probably going to get ahead, but when I got into trading, truly got into trading, was when I decided to start coming off the road. And we were on a tour bus, and I thought, I heard this advertisement for a school, and I thought, this is a breeze. And so I took them up on it, went to one of the classes at the site, and was completely confused, had no idea, because what I was taught in school was a little bit different than what we do in true trading. But I guess when I started, we got in probably around 2000 when I started looking at it. Probably, I would say 12 years ago-ish is when I started really doing my own trading in Forex. And where did I learn? I see the question popping up.
Segued beautifully, by the way.
Yeah, it's a perfect line, because that's exactly what I was getting ready to talk about. When I went to the university, I was a finance minor, economics, and then I also was political science major. I was thinking I wanted to get into politics and banking, so that was a great combo. Loved both of them, but then a passion for music changed. So the learning of trading is different than the learning of investing. And so investing is a different mindset altogether. I think if you're doing investing, you need to understand a little bit more foundational stuff, because investing usually is not something you're going to be in and out of in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And a true investment is something you're going to be holding over months and years. So trading was a different thing. It was a lot faster. And so Online Trading Academy is the first thing that I did as far as we call a formal education on trading. I've got books lined up everywhere, and I've gotten rid of more books. I'm one of those guys that literally, and I could probably, in our trading group, Traide Masters, probably majority of the same way. I have every video. I've probably read every book there is that has not repeated itself over and over again, written by somebody else, but the same stuff. I've spent money on all sorts of things, only to realize that the game is not what I thought it was, and I didn't want to admit it to myself. So learned lessons in an Online Trading Academy through books, and then hard knocks of experience.
Yeah, that's the worst one. The best, but the most
expensive. Best one. Yeah, it is the best one.
So I think everyone out there who knows you knows what you trade, but just in case someone's watching this for the first time, briefly synopsisize, if that's a verb, what you trade.
I trade currencies. I invest. I have different investments in ETFs, stocks, things that are a little longer term, bonds, things like that. But that's different than trading. So trading for me, if you understand the market and understand the volume of currency in the globe, the currency market is what turns all of the other stuff. So even in school, they wouldn't teach us that. The whole point was New York Stock Exchange, get up in New York, get in New York, be in the stocks. But if you really dig deep down into the markets that are available to you, currencies, derivatives are good. But for me, I'm not in a place where I can really dive into derivatives and be able to truly put the time to it and my mind to it, because I'm still teaching fourth grade. Love doing that. So for me, currency is the best way because it's 24/5 pretty much. I can trade it on a daily chart, and like I do my 15 to 30 minute session, 15 to 30 minute strategy every Monday night. That's literally how much time I will take during a week if I'm not teaching, to really manage my trades, because once I'm in, it's easier to manage for me. So I picked currencies for that very reason.
And it was the hardest thing for me was giving up day trading and the excitement of it and switching over to swing trading. I believe many a Monday night I would tell you that that your strategy was about as exciting as watching paint dry.
It is
Honestly, it's what you want out of a positive session.
It is supposed to be boring. It's intended to be boring.
Yes.
And we've talked about this. The fact of the matter is I started on a 1 minute chart.
Yeah.
And then I backed up to a 5 minute chart. Then
I've heard Merlin refer to trading tick charts way back in his earlier career, which is I can't even imagine.
I knew everything. And when I started trading, I wanted fast money and I wanted day trading. So what I started realizing in my personality is highly aggressive, highly competitive. I'm not greedy and I'm not scared. But I'm highly competitive, and I had to, and maybe this will come up in another question, but one of the things I did go to is Van Tharp. If you go to Van Tharp, look up Van Tharp and take up a personality exam, they'll tell you what kind of personality you are if you're honest with the questions. And it told me everything I needed to know of what not to do. And so what I ended up doing basically, Pepper, is I ended up backing myself out over about 6 months period of time, going from 5:15, 15 to the 1 hour, 1 hour to 2 hours. Okay, the 2 hours my thing. And then all of a sudden I couldn't get it together. Got to the 4 hour chart. And I thought, okay, this is slow. This is really boring. Blew up my account. And because I was pressuring it. And so what I ended up learning, and I've shared this with traders in the past that I've coached, what I ended up learning is my trade analysis is pretty spot on. My trade management stunk. I would move my stops. I would move my targets. My analysis was correct, but I was afraid to let it do what I thought it would do. I was afraid of losing.
It all comes down to psychology. One of the things Pierre and I are talking about is that honestly, and I hate to say this out loud, and I'm generalizing here, strategy almost doesn't matter.
Entries are easy.
You can pick. As a matter of fact, I did see a guy on YouTube who every day flipped a coin and used proper risk management, proper trade management, and was positive. I mean, he's like Euro US, flip a coin, long or short, and it wasn't a strategy, but so anyway, long story short, it's that barrel of monkeys that I talk about.
It's at least 90% mental, in my opinion. And so what I did basically is I went back all the way to the 6 hour chart. And what I found myself doing in order for me to get away with a good trade, I had to place my trade. Once I placed the trade, I went and played golf because I knew a golf round would take me 4 hours. So I couldn't mess with it for at least 4 hours.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't efficient enough on my phone to mess with it. So I had to walk away. And so what I learned that I was better at was a swing trader. And not that I can't day trade now, but it took me some life lessons of understanding who I am in order for me to be. But if you go into the Hawkeye sessions with Al and he says, okay, we're going to look at this particular pair, I'm already in it. He hadn't even done his analysis yet. So I'm highly aggressive. So I have to be real careful. Day trading causes me to overtrade.
Oh yeah.
And
you have a great day and you give it all back on that last trade.
Correct. So I am not efficient. If I'm teaching a day trading, I can show you how to get in, but I would not at this point follow me on a day trade because what I do with my personal money is not what I would teach somebody. It's easier to teach somebody than to actually follow your own rules. With swing, I can do both. I know my swing. Al's seen me go 3 or 4 months holding a trade where he can't handle holding it over a weekend. So it goes. So currencies is the thing that answers the question. For me, it fits my lifestyle. It fits my leverageability. It fits my personality and my time. And
what's interesting is one of the appeals of currency is that it's 24/5 or 24/6 depending on your point of view, and you can trade it whenever and it fits so you can day trade at night And yet, I think for both of us, because that was what drew me to it. Hey, I can sit down in the evenings and do my day trading. Was that we ended up not day trading. I mean, we just can't handle day trading. So
A lot of
the
times
big
my day
selling point
trades
for
turn into
Forex,
swing trades.
and
That's my
they
problem.
always say don't ever, but yeah. Well, here's an interesting one that I'm curious about everyone's answer to. Who who did you turn to during this whole educational period when you switched from investing to singing to trading? Who helped you or mentored you along the way, if
Wow.
anybody?
Proverbs,
Where did Job? I'm
Proverbs,
sure, Mr. Job.
Solomon. There's some wisdom nuggets I had. Kind of like you. When I came out of school, I was one of that. I was the guy. I was the Tom Cruise Top Gun. Even at OTA, I was looking around the room already thinking, okay, which one of these people am I going to take their money from? Because I knew that the game that we play is a zero-sum game. There can't be two winners.
Right.
It's just, in
Unless you're
this
the broker,
room
in
you
which case
could,
it's like being in the house.
right. Who do I need to beat? And my lesson, I've got several mentors that I follow, but Keith Gibson is the one that really taught me the most that I think. Tim Pessett, I still contact those guys from time to time. Those were the distant mentors. Keith taught me about SSI. And you see how I use that regular. He also taught me a lot of humility. I came in on the Thursday of class and said, fantastic, I just bought the pound yen. He says, fantastic, thank you for paying for lunch. I said, well, what do you mean? He says, you haven't looked at the recent SSI numbers. And I said, well, I did this morning. He says, recently? I said, no, I was driving here. He says, I just went short. And so guess who paid for his lunch? Me. So I learned that lesson because I had to lose to learn.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned from. So that's part of my experience is part of the learning mentor for me. Just like you kind of were when you were searching for a group. I don't recall. I mean, I don't recall how
it can be a very lonely profession.
it is. And I'm I'm an introvert by nature.
No.
But I like to be surrounded by people, if that makes sense. It's kind of like being an artist on stage. I love being on a stage to perform, but I don't like to be surrounded so close to people that they have to talk to me. Introvert by nature, but I like crowds, and I get that from my dad. My dad was the same way. But I ended up doing like you. I went searching for a group, and there just so happened to be a group that I would lurk in their Zoom room. It was a community on Online Trading Academy at the time, a bunch of traders. There wasn't a bunch, it was probably 15 to 20 at that time. And I walked in the room and sat down just like we're doing tonight. And I was watching their screen and had no idea what they were talking about. The screens looked cluttered to me. Remember, I'm OCD, so I'm a very, very simplistic person. I don't do a bunch of drawings and all that stuff. And they were talking about cloud, Fibonacci. They were talking about Elliott. I had no idea. This is stuff that was foreign to me. We didn't get taught that when doing mutual fund investing, and nor did they show any of that when you go to New York on the floor. And so I sat there probably for 2 or 3 months and never said a word. Never really introduced myself. They would say hi. It just so happens that these individuals became some of my best friends now.
Wow.
And that would be Al. Al was in that room. James, the one who programmed Atlas for me and produced Sherlock. He was in that realm. And so I would say through watching their noise, I learned that just because it's noise doesn't mean there's not some sort of organization to it. And so what I always say is, even though the market looks chaotic, you can find the order. And when you find the order, that's when you find your rhythm. And when you find your rhythm, that's when you can trade.
So from lurking in the background and being one of those people, how long did it take you to become successful?
Well,
how long did it take you to feel like you not how long did it take you to feel like you had?
Well, there's some phases, and if you trade long enough, there's phases. That first 3 years was pathetic. Blew up several accounts. And when I say blew up, we're not talking thousands and thousands. I was smart enough never to just dump a bunch of money and go nuts. I always started with minimum of 1,000. That's where I tried to be at. And then I would quickly learn how to lose it. And one of the jokes was, if you want to become a millionaire in trading, start with 2.
Right.
And so I was taking that philosophy to heart. Pepper, I would think probably 3 years of losing, maybe 2.5, 3 years. And then I finally broke down, and James had happened to fly to Dallas for, I think, a business meeting. And I was at the lowest of my low. And I said, this is what I found. I went back to the roots. And this is the start of where Atlas came from. I went to my roots and say, okay, it's not about what you call supply and demand. It's not about what you call support and resistance. It's none of that. It is price. And I went back to my roots in New York. They didn't have a chart. They had price. And I knew how big money works. They're not going to spend their time looking at a chart. That makes us traders feel good to look at a chart and feel like we're doing something. Bankers don't do that. And so I went back to my roots and I looked at price points that had moved strongly away. We learned some of those things in there and started drawing lines on every chart. And the lines wouldn't necessarily move, but they were on every chart. When I did that, I started finding a organized system inside the chaos. It was at that time when James created the Atlas for me. It wasn't called Atlas then, but it was the Atlas tool. And that's when things started to break even and I wasn't losing anymore. And then I thought, okay, now I have some foundations to really grow from. I've got Sherlock on top of Atlas. They weren't called that anymore. And these are price-based tools. They're not, I was getting caught up in Elliott wave. I was getting caught up in moving averages and when they cross 89 nines, 13s and 12s and all that, and there's nothing wrong with those things. Don't get me wrong. I was getting caught up with
any
so
strategy
much
can
noise.
work.
Right. Any strategy can work if you stick with the plan of it. And so you have to, and what I was doing is I was building my plan. And it's so methodical. I mean, I had a 78-page trade plan.
That's
it's
a lot.
2 pages. Yeah, it's 2 pages now. 2.
Yeah, that's what it needs to be.
So what I basically did for 3 years is lose money and pretty much either toss out a lot of my trade plan. And I got to very, very, very simplistic, duplicatable, replicatable, and consistent. And so I would say in the last, I guess I've known Al for almost over a decade now. I'm guessing in the last 7 years, 8 years, I've been profitable from that point on.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. So it took a while, but yeah.
So switching gears slightly, the whole purpose of this Thursday night session, and the thing that I have, the massive revelation that everyone already knows, and thing that finally sunk into me is that strategy doesn't matter. All that matters is what's, I only every Thursday I talk about my own barrel of monkeys and quieting those barrel of monkeys and riding herd over those barrel of monkeys, because it's all about your mindset. It's all about, with the first book I ever read, which everyone should read, and was Trading for a Living by Dr. Alexander Elder. The psychologist. Why is a psychologist, a good trader? And when I first read it, I read it for all the technical analysis aspect, which is ridiculous. And now we talked about books before. When I read books now, I only read financial books. I only read either psychology books or biographies. People the one I'm reading right now is What I Learned Losing $1 Million. I forget the fellow's name who wrote it, but the Turtle Traders is mainly about psychology. So for me, the most important thing, and I love reading biographies because I love reading the people that says, here's where I was, here's what I did wrong, here's how I bottomed out and blew everything up, and now here's where I am now. And it's all just a psychological journey. So with that in mind, what was your mind? And you touched on it a little bit earlier. What was your mindset, your trading mindset specific, not your personality, but maybe your trading mindset at the beginning when you first started trading?
Well, I think the coaching education for me with Online Trading Academy kind of helped grab my mind into changing my paradigm of thinking. The university kind of teaches you the opposite. They teach what the crowd does. And I never thought about it until it was presented differently. So my mindset was not right for trading. Looking back on it, the mindset I had for managing mutual funds was the proper one. It's long-term, it's, yada, yada, yada. But the trading mindset's completely different in my mind than the investing. So learning that and I knew it, and down deep in my heart, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer. It's happened since the beginning of time. Understanding that trading is a zero-sum game. I never thought about that when you're dealing with a mutual fund, that when somebody's winning, somebody's losing somewhere. If you're really having a true investment, somebody's losing. They may be willing to take that. Maybe they made a little bit, want to sell a little bit, that type of thing, like a home. They may not have lost a lot, but they lost something. The trader mindset for me was, I realized that, I hate saying this, the game is rigged. I hate that, because it's not illegal. It's not something
It's
that
controlled.
It's controlled, but it's controlled by a very few amount of people that understand how it really works. And what's been laid on my heart lately is, in my mind, is identify the footprints of the wealthy or the big institutions. You don't have to do exactly what they do, but you need to identify where their footprint is. And one thing that they know is, they know that retail traders' psychology is horrible. And so they're going to hype you up to slam you down to hype you up. And you're going to, just as soon as you get in a trade, you're going to lose. And I think, so my mindset was a little bit skeptical as a trader. My mindset, if that's the direction you're looking for.
Well, it also,
a little bit
you mentioned
noisy
before about day trading and not following moving your stops, that kind of thing. What was that at the actual, being in a trade, and the thoughts that run through your head of get in, get out, those
noise.
things? How
the noise.
What was the noise like when you first started?
When I tell this to my fourth graders, but I also preface this because this is a comment my dad made as a joke, but it stuck with me ever since I was a little kid. Second place is first place loser. And so,
alrighty then.
Yeah, and tell a 9-year-old that.
Yeah,
and you're trying to impress your dad, and he meant nothing by it. He really just wanted me to do my absolute best. I can remember the place. We were on a baseball field. I just came off the field, and we just gave up runs. I was playing catch. I remember it just like it was yesterday. It was one of the few games he ever was able to watch me play. Second place is first place loser. And, I've taken that thought all the way through to, and I'm 56 now. And I've never forgotten it. It's 45 years ago.
It's kind of scary when we think, as parents, when we think about an offhanded comment that we might make that might shape our children's lives.
Exactly. And you got to understand where he came from, and his generation was. He was born in 1940, World War II. He served the country. He went to Air Force Academy. Nobody in our family had ever gone that far in education. Air Force Academy representing the state of Maryland. He was the first graduating class of the academy in 1963.
Oh, the Air Force wasn't that old. Yeah.
Jets in Vietnam, and then came and flew for airlines. And airline pilots were like astronauts in the early 70s. It was what everybody thought was dangerous and a dumb job to have, and only crazy people would fly a plane in the air. You've got to remember, jet planes are not, they're relatively new technology to our age. And so he was the Top Gun guy before Top Gun was even a movie. And so his mindset was second place is first place loser, because that's how you survive then. But as a 9-year-old and non-war, to hear that, I took that to the extreme, and I am a perfectionist. And I tell my fourth graders, one of the most important things is that I teach them right off the bat, and it goes back to that mindset of noise. Clear the noise. And our focus all year long in fourth grade is tug of war. I know it sounds dumb, but if I can have them focus on tug of war for the field day, which happens 7 months after the fact, then they can learn all the other stuff without the stress, because they're not stressed about learning math or English. They're stressed about, can we win tug of war? And they're focused. So when I speak second place to first place loser, they know it means I got to give everything I've got. I'm all in. And I told them the day of the tug of war, I said, guys, you've already done everything. You put everything all in. That doesn't guarantee you win. You've done your part. And sure enough, I've only had one second place finish in 8 years. Because it's a mindset. It's these kids will do push-ups. When I say the word field day, they go down on the floor and they do their push-ups. And I'll say wall, they line themselves. They're strengthening themselves from August all the way to March, ready for that time. It's the same thing with trading. If you can't discipline yourself to think of second place is first place loser, but that doesn't mean get careless. you prepare yourself mentally, educationally, community wise, all the elements that we need as a human being to grow. If you don't prepare, popping in and getting a signal is not going to help you. It's going to cost you money. Popping in and getting the best automated system is not going to help you. It may make you some money to start with, but when it doesn't work, you're not going to know what to do with it, and you're going to lose money, everything you've got. So the education piece is the most important understanding. I love automated systems, but I want to know what they're doing. That way, when they don't work, I can change it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
and
what
you covered that is how you overcome the original mindset. And part of that is experience. And part of that is we all have that bottom of the well, come to Jesus moment where we say, okay, what I've been doing isn't working. Let me, what's interesting is every bit of trading education everywhere. And the guy that I watched on YouTube, he has all of his videos broken down into by subject. And he said that his psychology videos are the least viewed. And every book has a psychology chapter. Every teacher has a psychology portion of a speech. Yet that's the one element, that's the most important element that people pay attention to the least, or want to pay attention to.
I'll spend $250 a month for a system to do it all for me, but I don't want to know anything.
Right. And I don't tell me I have to be disciplined. I don't want to be disciplined. I just want money right now.
I just want money. And it doesn't work that way. We know fast money earned is fast money lost.
Yeah.
I think two things that people underutilize: the psychology of it and the community of it.
Yes.
If you get those
exactly,
two going,
and those go hand in hand. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, one of these sessions, that there was a call it the Great Pepper Meltdown. I think it was 2018. I was coming on Monday nights and just like venting my spleen, and I was just week after week of trying and failing, and it was.
It's a grind. It's a grind.
It was, but you have to. You do have to hit rock bottom, but you have to understand that the noise, the barrel of monkeys in your head, is what's going to keep you from being successful or allow you to be successful.
And we're in an ever-changing world. So why do you think you need to stop learning?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why I still love reading books on. I realize that most of the books are well, they're not. I don't want to say useless. So there's value in every aspect of education, but
there's value in
a lot of the books.
I mean, even
watching Bad Money with Jim Cramer is still somewhat educational.
Yeah, university is the opposite. So whatever I learned in the university, I now do pretty much the opposite when it comes to trading.
Yeah,
which is okay. They teach the masses. The masses don't become wealthy, though.
That's right. So what are some of your current, from a trading psychology standpoint, what are some of your current struggles? You mentioned that you don't necessarily day trade on a regular basis.
Well, day trade, if you're talking day trading, my struggle with day trading is overtrading. And
why do you think you overtrade? Not to put you on the psychology couch here, but
highly competitive. It's like when you're doing daily swing trade type stuff, the game is longer. So the game doesn't end for a while. So the game doesn't end till the trade's over. So my entries still have to meet my parameters. When you shrink down the time frame to a 5-minute chart, the game can be over in minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to play the game again. Does that make sense?
Is it an excitement thing, or is it just boredom? Or I mean, what makes you place the next trade, even though you think maybe I shouldn't place the next trade?
I have to work for my money. That's what it is. Instead of just letting it happen, I feel like I need to be doing something.
Yes, that is the hardest part. Recognize, I put out a video a couple of months ago that not trading is still trading if you're following your plan.
So you know what I did today? I made 4% on my day trading account today. But you know how come I did it? On the back end while I'm trading, Al's analyzing his trade. We're going to do this, and I'm watching if it crosses. While he's doing his lesson, I'm listening to him. I'm building a spreadsheet on a heat map for Forex currency. I'm working. Remember how I said I had to go play golf? Same thing. I had to I want to be with Al. I'm hearing what he's saying. I'm learning from what he's saying, but I don't look at my chart while he's doing it, because if I start looking at my chart, I'll go, oh, Hercules is telling me to go long on this one now. Let's go there. Boom.
Yeah. I'm the same
And
way. I have to distract myself with other things
with work,
trade related.
correct. And that's what I do
That's
most
why
of the time.
that's why I back test almost nonstop, because I'm channeling my energy somewhere else so that I will leave my swing trades alone.
So, and I would say, part of the reason nobody does swing trading is because, number one, the people who do swing trading, I should say, don't do trading. Most of the people that are trading probably should be doing swing trading because their time and their lifestyle doesn't allow them to do day trading.
Right.
But they don't want to because it's not fast enough. It's not
Right.
euphoric enough. It's not exciting enough. So basically what they're doing is gambling, which is what I do in the mornings, unless I find something else to distract me.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that your average retail trader, your average whoever it is, needs to take a hard look and say, these are the specific lifestyle parameters of a day trader. And if my life doesn't meet this 100%, I should not day trade. Right.
Correct.
It's like being a great athlete. Unless you can do this, 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 and this, you're not getting drafted in the NFL. Same thing. If unless your brain and unless your job and your day allows you this, you should. I used to day trade driving down the road, which is a terrible thing to do. But I wanted to day trade because I wanted to be in it. I was afraid of missing out on who knows what.
FOMO. Yeah.
So it's,
I think that's part of it too. I think we all go through the FOMO part where we're fear of missing
yes.
out those things. I like the benefit for me with the swing trading for me is when I go to school, the last thing on my mind is trading. Except, well, I say that from 6:30 to 8 o'clock until those kids walk into my room, I'm going, I wonder how my trades are doing. I want to look. But from 8 o'clock all the way to 3:30, 3:45, those kids don't allow me time to go, hey, let me see if I can do some trading. And so that's a huge benefit for me, as should, if anybody's working, you should be focused on your work. Those people are paying you to work, not to trade on their time. And so I like the fact that the swing trade allows me the ability to coach people. It allows me the ability not to touch it during the day and allow what happened to happen. The key is you have to the trade management comes down to the big key for me, and understanding when the picture changes to cut the loss as short as you can.
So where are some of the places that you turn for research, again, from a trading psychology standpoint?
Oh, wow.
People or videos or books, or if you have a question about, trading psychology, where do you, or maybe something you've already learned in the past, where did you turn for resources?
Well, I would go to my mentors. I would go to Al. I would go to my community. Van Tharp was I went back and took that test again after blowing up my accounts just to make sure I didn't cheat on it, because sometimes when you want yourself to be something you're really not, and you really weren't honest in the answer. So your result came out going, hey, I'm Warren Buffett, when you probably should have been, Jim Carrey with some other character, some goofball on Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, I actually would love to see the entire Traide Masters community take a trade psychology test.
I would say Van Tharp, and there was one book that came out, and I need to put it on the Traide Masters site and make it available. It's a short read, and it's from Noah St. John, and it's called "Get Rid of Your Head Trash About Money." And matter of fact, one of our coaches read it, and it changed her whole lifestyle.
Wow, well, that's good.
And it's little. It's maybe a 2-hour read at most. So it's just common sense, logic, common sense. I got a matter of fact, I'm sitting right here.
You just literally disappeared in the thin air.
I keep it right there with me, and it's little bitty. You can barely see it. I mean, it's tiny. Yeah. But I keep that with me. Resources. We kind of said it jokingly when I said Proverbs and Song of Solomon, but honestly, there's a lot, whether you're a Bible believer or not, there's a lot of wisdom in those passages from history that, Solomon was the wisest person. Why not learn from the wisest person? How did he do it? He was the wealthiest person ever to live on the world. So why not learn from him? So as far as other community, I really hang with this community because I pretty much now know myself after 15 years as myself as a trader, and I can already tell when I'm messing up. And I've learned when I start really messing up to stop, so I don't blow up accounts. So I'm not blowing up accounts anymore. I also know the things I do for resources. I learned this as a mutual fund manager. It is easier to trade somebody else's money than
Oh,
it is to trade your own.
really?
So,
I would almost assume it was the other way because the
no,
pressure of
the
grandma's
my dad, yeah,
pension.
well, my dad taught me. He said he did not want his investments with me. He says the reason being is when I pass, that becomes your money, and I don't want you trading different, knowing that that's going to be yours in some time.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
My
Yeah,
own personal trade, I have my own financial advisor trading for me. I could do it. I could, but he is not attached to the emotion of my money.
well, that's true. That's true.
And so
Yeah, that
therefore, outside perspective, he's
when
not
time
tied
comes
to it.
to close a trade, there's no hesitation because it's just numbers.
It's just numbers to him. And
Yeah,
so I encourage every trader to look at the PAM available for Traide Masters, the PAMs that we have available, because that's a professional person managing on the outside for currency
right.
stuff. We have I mean, that's a great resource. I mean, heck, the gold ones averaging about 6% a month. You're not going to get that in
Hmm.
a bank.
It's
And
almost 100% a year. It's
yeah,
like
and
just shy of it.
just shy of it. So I think a lot of our people don't understand the value of that because 6% sounds, oh, that's nothing.
Right.
Put it over 12 months and tell me how your mutual fund goes against it. You're not going to find 100% mutual fund. And I think
Yeah, you might get a 20% one month, but you might get a -12 the next month.
well, and what I will tell you too, you also have to be aware of the fees that are involved in those mutual funds. You may report a 30% return, but you also have fees coming out of that as well. So
Yeah.
there's some numbers at play, and you've got mutual fund managers who are rolling your accounts over so they can get their income from you. They were in a perfectly good investment portfolio, but they're going to move because they need some income for themselves. That happens.
Yeah.
It happens. I never did that. I thought that was unfair. But when you're trying to feed your family or live beyond your means, you do what you have to do.
Yeah.
And that's called account churning, and it's illegal if you get caught doing it. But so I like having that outside perspective of somebody else, whether they win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. But somebody else looking. I have three people doing mutual fund investments for me in financial planning. And I have our PAM manager who does our currency stuff. So I diversify in that realm too, because what if I get sick?
Yeah.
What if I'm not able? My wife still has to have some income. So diversifying that way is a key thing too.
All right. War story. I told mine last week of being immobilized by a trade that that gapped below my stop, and it was incumbent upon me to go click and accept the loss of $300-400. So what's the from a not from necessarily from money, but from a barrel of monkeys noise? What's the worst trade experience that you can recall?
Let me start with my best one though. Can I do that?
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
My best one was we were standing in Online Trading Academy. I was taking a refresher course because I just wasn't getting it. So I took a refresher course. Brendan Wendell was there. I love talking with him. And I asked him in the midpoint, because he knew I'd been involved in, this was my refresher. So I said, how many of these students are actually going to make it? He says 1%.
Whew.
And I went, there was my reality check. So the next day we come up and I said, now I've already had Keith Gibson. So he taught me about SSI. And I told Brendan, I said, I'm going to go short on the US Swiss today. And he says, it's in an uptrend. I said, yeah, but you notice that the SSI is split. He said, well, I'm not using that. You know, he said, but I'm not trading that pair. So he didn't care. That was the same day it unpegged.
No.
It dropped. I didn't get my target. It didn't even fill my target.
My fell past it.
It went right on through and tripled my target because that was the earliest he could get me out. Yeah, it was that more than paid for my whole Online Trading Academy experience.
From a trade management standpoint, that may have had a little bit more to do with the Swiss National Bank than Brian, but still.
Oh, there's no doubt it had to do with this. But the fact that I saw the switch of the SSI, that had to do with me. Because it did switch. It switched overnight. And I had no idea there was even.
Can you imagine being long and none of the stops were triggering?
They were not triggered. Thousands and millions of dollars were lost that day.
Oh.
My worst experience, was
Or maybe
probably
just a time that you could just like,
I was gonna
frozen.
quit. I was quitting. I had gotten, it was before we met with James to do Atlas, the Atlas programming. Um, I think everything in my world was kind of caving in. The girls, I was feeling a little bit lost. My girls had grown up. I'd been on the road touring. I think God was telling me it was time to retire from the road and take part. A lot of stresses because when you're not only was I in the band, but I owned the band, so I had other people's livelihoods in my hand. A lot of stress
Yeah.
and a change in life. You're talking midlife crisis almost. You're talking, I was in my mid 40s at the time, and just a whole bunch of circumstances of life. Everything seemed to be, everything I touched. See, when I looked at my dad, everything my dad touched seemed to go to gold. Everything I touched seemed to go to paper or plastic. I mean, it was just worthless. And so I was at that point where I'd grown my account, and then all of a sudden it just kept every trade, and I started cutting back. But by the time I got down, I literally had $60 in my trading. I went from $2,000 to 60 in about a month's time.
Wow.
And I just came to the point where I was going to quit. I said I was done. The community was still there, and I enjoyed them. And I think the friendship kept me at least coming back. I was embarrassed, I've been learning from you guys how's this happening, and but I just came to the point where I prayed about it. Of course, my faith's a big thing, just like yours. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna build this back up. They said that you can't trade with less than $100 in an account. I'm going to do that. I put $40 more in my account, started with $100. And my whole philosophy for a whole year: trade a candy bar, earn a hamburger.
Mm-hmm.
Trade a candy bar.
I remember you saying that on Monday nights.
Yes.
Matter of fact, I opened up an Awanda account with $100 just to do that. It was like a $2 stop and a $5 take profit.
And this is the problem with traders nowadays. They want bigger money. You got to remember, when you're trading a $100 account in proper position size, you're literally trading 50 cents to earn $1. And so $1 a day, and it wasn't every day. So talk about taking a slow growth. But when the year was up, I looked back, and I was up about 73%. I had about almost $200 in the account, give or take $20. And I thought, wow, that's 1 year. And I did it again. But this time I was position sizing better. I had a little bit more flexibility with $200 than I had with 100. So I was properly position sizing. Now, when you have a $100 account, you can only go to micro 0.01.
Right.
That's all you can do. So you're over position size right from the beginning. So that's why I said they don't understand the psychology behind, oh yeah, you can start with 100, but you're going to be over position size before you even start. And so I gradually got that going, and it was the third year. I said it took about 3 years. And I went from that $120 account to about 480. And then it just, from that point, it's been behind. So that my worst trade it was more than just a trade. It was the overall experience of trading.
But during the course of that 3 years, you built a pattern of behavior that allowed that. I mean, because if you can do 73% on a $100 account, the only difference between that and anything else is the number of zeros at the end
of the capital. Yeah. And that's where we all face, it's easy to trade $100. It's just $100. Could I do the same thing with 10,000?
Well, and that's one of the issues that people, I'm a big proponent of prop firms, one of the issues, one reason people flame out is they're used to trading $100, $500, $1,000, and that's so they're given a $100,000 account, and they don't know.
But you have five more zeros in the noise.
Right. That first time you get a stop loss, and you're used to a $50 stop loss, and now suddenly it's a $5,000 stop loss, and you freak out. Right. So I tell people, don't keep trading your $1,000 account, copy trade. So don't ever look at it. So
well, what I had to do this, Pepper. I had to stop looking at the money and look at the pips gained.
Exactly.
I started counting pips instead of numbers during that 3 year. Now I'm aware of money now, but during that 3 year, I tried to avoid looking at how much money I was making a day. I wanted to say, okay, I need to make this many pips a day, this many pips a day. And I focused on the pips, and that got me off of the, I lost.
Right. And I try to encourage people, if at all possible, turn off the trade terminal. Don't even look at the money. Just follow the process. Did I do steps 1 through 5? And that's all you worry about.
Yeah, I did that at the beginning. Yeah, that's exactly what I did at the beginning. I totally turned off the terminal that showed me the money. I totally turned it off. And
Yeah.
so, and I started with a 6-hour chart. I say this on Monday night, 6 hours is my most favorite chart. And probably because of that 3-year experience with it.
You must have been FXCM because MT4 doesn't come with
That
six
was
hour
before
chart.
the FX, there's brokers everywhere, but
Yeah.
FXCM really messed it up for me because that happened right during that same time. Yeah, that was fun.
Well, we are almost at the end here. I didn't get any questions earlier down here. So this was fantastic. I learned quite a bit from you,
I
as is
hope so.
usually the case. And I'm looking forward to doing this with, I'm hoping to hook up with Al next week. Also like I said, we'd love to try to get some of the students or the community members, I don't want to call them students, but the other community members in here as well.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add before we get out of here?
No, I just think I think this is a great thing you're doing. You're 100% in, which is a great thing to see. Al and I believe in it as well. I know the other coaches do too. That the community is the key. It's not
Yes.
the trading that's the easy part.
Pressing buttons is nothing.
Easy.
Yes.
It's easy. The joy of trading comes from the friends that you make in the community that you trade with. And
yes.
I wish that every member would fully engage at least once a week with, and maybe we need to just have a community a day where we just come and not talk trade. We just chat on like our Friday.
Maybe so. Build a
end
habit
of summary type
behavior.
thing.
Yeah.
An end of the week summary type thing on a Friday or Saturday, maybe once every 2 weeks that the community can do. I think that's beneficial. But just know that people are watching. We're working on all sorts of things. Those who've been influenced by the broker situation, we're working on that. I've been developing a new heat map for currency that should help give you some, I'm calling it Hercules trade ideas. What we're doing is pitting all from weekly all the way down to 5-minute currency momentum based on a moving average, if it's above or below, and putting those sequences together to give you to start your day so you can have some trade ideas to pairs to look at so you can narrow down your pairs. So you're not looking at all of them, because that's a big question. Everybody says, well, which pairs do you trade? Well, I only probably trade 6 to 8 of them, but I show all of them. So in my Monday session. So what I'm going to do now is probably going to remove the ones I don't trade unless there's a question about them. That way I'm not confusing traders. So a lot of good things in store in the future for Traide Masters. We're just and the broker meeting. The broker meeting is coming up next week. You're going to be coming out to Dallas my way too. But make sure you bring a coat because it's supposed to be really cold. 104 degrees with a heat index of 113. So you can see how
bigger in Texas, even the heat.
You can see my red face, been playing a little bit of golf, but so Monday, big broker meeting with Lewis and the folks at Sway Markets. He's supposed to pull back the curtain on what brokers do and don't do. And so that's going to be exciting to find out. So
I've got an LSU shirt for you to wear if you need to. So just let me know.
Yeah. I'm going to be looking for a Redskin I don't have a Commander shirt, but a Redskin shirt. We're meeting at the Star Center, which is the Cowboys facility. So that's going to be crazy because he's a former Cowboy. So
yeah. All right. Well, as every week I always say, the key to becoming a trade master, the name of the sessions is go out there and execute one good trade and then do it again. All right, guys, I will see everybody out there next week.
Thanks, Pepper.
Thanks you. All right. Hang on.